Today we're here with someone who I'm very lucky to call a very good friend of mine. This is Heather Esposito. She is an expert in gluten-free, all things gluten-free. So today she's going to show us a very simple, easy recipe to making an American classic banana bread. And we're also going to talk a little bit about her journey as to how she became aware of all these gluten issues and kind of her story. So Heather, why don't you take it and tell us how you got here?
Okay, so I eat gluten-free, and a lot of people think that I just do it just because. But really, my story is that I first found out when I was 16 or so that I was pre-diabetic, and the doctor said don't eat sugar, but I had no idea what to do with that. So I just kept eating sugar. I felt like crap most of my life, and I got to a point where I really felt terrible, and I knew that I needed to make a change, and I realized that the change needed to be made in my diet. So I decided to take out sugar and see how I felt. And I felt amazing. Felt so great. So I did that, but then there was still something that was missing, and I started to learn about celiac disease and gluten intolerance. So I decided to take that out of my diet for a week, and I just said I could do anything for a week and just experiment and see how I feel. And when I did, my stomach got flat, my energy level went up, my menstrual cycles were actually pleasant instead of horrendous.
Crazy.
Yeah, it was terrible before. And so once I took it out for a week and I reintroduced it, and I felt horrible.
Right, so you knew that that was the key.
I knew it was absolutely the key. So I went and got tested, and the doctors, I hadn't had it for so long when I got tested, so the doctors were like, oh, you're fine, it doesn't bother you, your test came back negative. But I was like, how come my body, feels terrible when I have it? So I really just learned to listen to my body and what it was telling me, and just totally keep it out. And one thing that I didn't say is that I'm also lactose intolerant. And most people who have problems with gluten also have problems with dairy as well. So I had a huge sweet tooth, but I couldn't do sugar, I couldn't do dairy, and I couldn't do gluten. So I really wanted to have something to eat. So I just set about starting to make baked goods. And so everything that I make is free of gluten and dairy and eggs and soy and corn and refined sugar, because they're all the major allergens. Mine is corn. Corn is not a major allergen yet.
Okay.
Although I say watch out for it.
Right, I agree.
Start to see it.
agree.
So that's kind of been my journey.
Now you mentioned some of the symptoms that you had.
Mm-hmm.
You had bloating, those sorts of things. Can you think of any other symptoms that maybe some of the people who aren't really sure, like, I don't know why I'm not feeling very good.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the other symptoms?
There are so many symptoms. I mean, they say that there's over 55 diseases that are caused by gluten and celiac, or like misdiagnosed.
Mm-hmm.
So you have the digestive issues. And malabsorption is a huge one, people not being able to get their nutrients. And that shows up in ways of like not having energy, just general fatigue. Another big one that a lot of people don't even consider is just having brain fog.
Brain fog. I know lots of people with brain fog.
Yes,
including myself most of the time.
Yeah, and most people who walk around like that and just think that that's just the way that we're supposed to be.
Right.
So brain fog is a huge one because gluten affects the front of your brain and your ability to think and to focus. So that's a huge one. For women, menstrual issues and also fertility issues are a big one too. A lot of women who have celiac disease or don't know that they have it experience a lot of infertility issues. And once they clear that up, a lot of times it makes it much easier for them to conceive. So those are some of the big ones. I mean, there's so many low underlying things that gluten affects. It causes inflammation. So for some people, when my mom eats it, she's constantly clearing her throat over and over and over again, and it's beyond annoying to be around her. But things like skin issues,
like rashes or itchiness or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I used to be itchy for no reason at all, and I could never figure out why I was itching all the time.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably it. We were talking about it earlier today. Also, if you're a heavy partier, and then the next day, if you're feeling like a little tingly and very brain foggy, maybe that's from the beer, because the gluten is in the beer.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
as much as I hate to admit that, I learned that kind of the hard way.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's really so many things, and all the symptoms are so varied for so many people, and that's why it's really hard to diagnose.
Right, I hear one of the biggest problems is misdiagnosis.
Mm-hmm.
And it can also be that you can be tested for celiac disease, which is the genetic part of this sort of whole thing. Celiac is a little different from intolerance in the sense that there's a genetic aspect to it. So if you have someone in your family who has it, you have a likelihood of having it yourself. But they were saying how they will actually take a biopsy of the intestinal lining and it will come out negative. But you will still, in fact, have celiac. So people they're miserable. They're having all kinds of issues, and they're being misdiagnosed, and so they're thinking they're crazy. Constantly feeling sick. The doctor's saying, "I've tested you. There's nothing wrong with you." If you're feeling this way, and if you just know that there's something wrong, this is one way that really doesn't cost you anything. You don't have to seek out any more doctors. Try this for a week, like Heather did. Go off of sugar, go off of gluten, take those things out, and see after a week how you feel. And it's really not a whole lot of effort, right?
I really don't think that it's a whole lot of effort, and that's one of the big things that people say to me all the time is that they're like, it's just so much work, and it's also like isolating that I can't go out and do things. And
right. I guess you would feel kind of limited if you're thinking, oh, I can't have this, I can't have that. But you were telling me earlier that you really don't feel that way at all.
I don't feel that way at all, and I think some of it is really the big mind shift that you really have to do.
Perception.
Yeah, it really is huge, and I know that for a lot of people, when there's certain things that they can't have, it is a mourning process. Like for me, I can't eat traditional pizza anymore, or I can't eat a regular cake, because it has everything in it: gluten, dairy, sugar.
Sure.
And so people are like, I just feel so isolated and all alone, and I feel like I'm not alone anymore because I'm not in the bathroom all the time. I'm not feeling terrible all the time. So for me, it's the opposite, and it's just really my shift. So I want to always bring something that I could eat. I make a dish that I know that it's something that I can eat.
And so bring your own food, prepare in advance.
Yeah, and eat before I go. I always do that as well. I kind of have a little bit different view than a lot of people do.
Well, I think it's a much healthier view, and I'm actually really happy to hear this view because I usually hear people saying, oh, I can't do that, I can't go there, I can't eat the same foods.
Yeah.
So, it's a miserable time for me.
Right.
But hearing this is really refreshing because, it's just such you're loving life a lot more.
Yes.
Rather than looking at the can't haves, you're looking at the can haves.
Yeah.
And all the rest of the thing that come along with that,
Yeah, and that's really, I can have a body that I love and feel great in. And that's what we all want. We want to feel good in our bodies. And I didn't when I ate gluten and dairy and refined sugar.
Right. Well, let's get to cooking.
Yes.
Right.
So this is a super easy bread to make. And all of my recipes, so one thing we didn't mention is that I co-founded the country's first bakery that's 100% free of gluten, dairy, eggs, soy, corn, and refined sugar. And people are like, what the heck do you make it with? And I really wanted to make things, like I said, that I could eat. And it started off really.
So you were selfish.
I was very selfish. I totally was selfish. But then I realized that there's so many people who need this. This is one of my favorite ones because it really is simple and it's with ingredients that you can pretty much get anywhere. So what we have here is Bob's Red Mill All-Purpose Gluten-Free Flour.
And I love Bob's Red Mill.
Love it.
For everything, really.
Yes, it's so much easier to work with. So I have the all-purpose flour, and then we have, this is one of my favorite sweeteners. This is coconut sugar. I love coconut sugar.
Yeah, so do I.
And why do you love it?
Well, I love it because it's a low glycemic sugar, so it doesn't spike your insulin. And it also, because it comes from the sap of the coconut tree, you're getting all the minerals and the nutrients, the micronutrients that are coming along with, like you would with the maple syrup.
Yeah.
So you're getting all of that without spiking your insulin. And that's the best combination for a sugar, I think.
Yeah. So we have the coconut sugar. And then we have, instead of using an egg, I use arrowroot.
Okay.
So that helps to bind it together. And then in here, I kind of have everything together. This is baking soda, cream of tartar, xanthan gum, and cinnamon.
Okay.
So the cinnamon, obviously, for flavor. And cinnamon is also great for keeping blood sugar levels stable. So I like to have that in there. Xanthan gum is derived from corn.
Okay.
And I say that my stuff is corn-free, so people always ask, how can you do that? So the xanthan gum that I use is, after the processing, there's no detection of corn.
Okay.
And xanthan is used to replace gluten, essentially, and it gives it the rise in the breads. And, I don't like to have processed foods.
Right.
And it's kind of this trade-off because you need it for gluten-free breads to be able to rise.
Right.
And so, every once, and any of these baked goods are an every once in a while thing. I really don't, a lot of people go from gluten-filled processed crap.
Right. That's like a word that I use all the time.
Right.
To crap.
Yeah. To then gluten-free processed crap.
Right, because just because something is vegan and gluten-free and free of all these allergens doesn't necessarily mean it's good for you. You know, if you're buying it from a supermarket and it's made from some mass-produced thing. They're getting very low quality ingredients, and you know, it doesn't make it healthy.
Right.
So, but your things, you've thought very long and hard on all of the ingredients, and you're trying to keep them the highest quality.
Yeah, definitely the highest quality, and also tell people don't eat them every day.
Right.
You know, eat
no
more
one-
kale than you're going to eat any of this.
Exactly.
But when you taste it and you see how good it is, you're going to want to eat the whole thing.
Well, that's true too.
Which is what I do sometimes, but really like just try to limit. You know, it's really just an every once in a while kind of thing. So we're going to put that in there, and then we're just going to mix this around and just get it mixed together. Like I said, I mean, really super simple. I have nephews that are 2 and 4, and they literally they make this stuff with me. So it's really, really easy. So you just mix the dry ingredients, and then the wet ingredients, I have a mashed banana, because it's banana bread. And then for my fat, instead of using butter, I use coconut oil.
Okay.
And I like to use refined coconut oil just so that you don't get that coconut flavor. And then we also have vanilla extract. Now, with the vanilla extract, most extracts are derived from corn.
Right.
Which most people don't realize. And there are a couple on the market, which we didn't have any today, but Flavor Organics, they're not derived from corn. They're derived from cane. So if you're trying to stay away from corn, then that's a good one. And you also have to check, some extracts do have gluten in them.
Okay, and I know there a lot of times they have high fructose corn syrup and sugars and all kinds of things. So if you really want pure vanilla extract, you need to really read the label and make sure of what you're getting.
Yep, yeah. So we're gonna throw the vanilla in there, and then the last thing that we're going to mix in here is hot water. So I just mix the wet stuff, and I don't mix it together a ton. Like if you can still see, it's still like separated a little bit, which is totally fine. And then I just do it this way.
Can you help?
No, I'm good. You just pour it in and mix it together, and that's your bread.
All right.
I personally like to throw some gluten-free, dairy-free chocolate chips in here.
Okay.
Or if you're not allergic to nuts, then you can throw nuts in
Some
there.
walnuts or something.
Yeah. Yep. And then we're just going to bake this for about 45 minutes, depending on your oven,
Okay.
at 350.
Okay. So yeah, standard baking temperature.
Yep.
So this is super easy.
It's beyond super
This
easy.
is my kind of dessert.
Yes, it's beyond easy. So you just want to have a bread pan, make sure that it's greased,
Okay.
and then you're just going to pour that in there, and then put that in the oven. And that's
Awesome.
it. Super easy.
So in the end, we come up with this gorgeous, scrumptious, delicious, sweet, moist, awesome banana bread. Yeah, and I'm telling you, you could give this to just about anybody, and they would absolutely not know. They would have no clue that this was gluten-free, vegan,
Right.
corn-free,
Refined
refined sugar-free, all the rest of the free. So, if you're going to have a dessert, this is a healthy way to have it. It's a super simple, easy way to make it. And I want to thank Heather for being here.
for
Awesome
having
job.
me.
Thank you, Heather.